This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
4 weeks missing. The search for Jack and Lily Sullivan is set to resume. Ransomware fallout. Thieves gain access to about 140,000 SIN numbers of Nova Scotia Power customers. And radio coverage. Researchers work to improve communications equipment for first responders.
The weekend is here, and yes, we do have some wet weather building in, particularly for Saturday afternoon. But we'll see the potential for some sunshine, especially on Sunday. Your full forecast is coming up.
It's now been 4 weeks since 2 children went missing in Nova Scotia's Pictou County. RCMP say the search for 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack will resume once again this weekend. As Haley Ryan reports, the children's stepfather says he will never give up hope.
It's been 4 weeks since Daniel Martel has seen his stepchildren. 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan were reported missing Friday, May 2nd, after they wandered out of their Pictou County home. They have not been found after weeks of extensive searching the heavily wooded area.
Every day when I wake up, it just feels like I'm reliving a nightmare of May 2nd. But the main feelings from sadness have just turned to anger because there's no evidence as of after 1 month. And it's really taken a toll.
On Friday, RCMP say ground search and rescue crews and police will return to the area this weekend, focusing on a nearby pipeline trail where a boot print was previously located.
I know that they're working hard and they're using every resource they have, and it makes me hopeful because that's all we have at this point is just hope.
A vigil of flowers and stuffed animals has grown in recent weeks outside the RCMP station in nearby Stellarton. Since May 2nd, when Lily and Jack went missing, people here in Pictou County are still struggling to understand what happened and why there are still no answers.
Every day, almost, I go by the RCMP, and it's just so tragic. Just so tragic. You know, I just feel so bad for their whole family. I'm hoping that they find them.
It just doesn't look good, but I hope I'm wrong.
The warden of Pictou County says many people are on edge and children are worried about playing outside.
Oh, I think it's mostly a mood of anxiety maybe and frustration. They too can't believe that there's not an answer by this long and this many people looking.
The RCMP have confirmed Lily and Jack were seen on camera with family the day before they went missing. Police are asking anyone who was on Gairloch Road between April 28th and May 2nd to share their dash cam or other footage with RCMP. Martel says every detail helps and could lead to finding Lily and Jack.
I'm going to keep fighting for the rest of my life to find these kids. That's the only goal I have at this point.
Haley Ryan, CBC News, Lansdowne Station.
Nova Scotia Power is facing more questions today after the utility revealed as many as 140,000 social insurance numbers could have been stolen in the ransomware attack. That represents about half of the number of customers affected by the incident. Gareth Hampshire reports.
Sarah Tessier feels violated that her personal information, including her social insurance number, could have been stolen following the Nova Scotia Power cyber attack. She spent the last 2 weeks trying to figure out how someone got into her bank account and took all the money out.
Just knowing that now I'm vulnerable probably for the rest of my life because that information's out there.
She's relieved her bank, CIBC, has sorted out her account. She got Nova Scotia Power's warning letter after it was drained and thinks that's why she was targeted, and is now worried about her SIN number getting into the wrong hands.
Well, I think it's ridiculous that they would have all this information on file in the first place.
She recalls providing her SIN to the utility when setting up her account after moving from Ontario 5 years ago.
If it was to do a credit check to see if I had to put a deposit, then it should have been, deleted from that database immediately after. There was no reason to keep that information there.
Nova Scotia Power's president says social insurance numbers were used to verify people's accounts and were collected voluntarily. He spoke to CBC Radio's Information Morning to explain.
It has been used in the past for customer authentication. So if you have multiple customers with the same name, it is a way to differentiate. So that was used in the past.
Peter Gregg says he has a good idea of who is behind the hack, but is not sharing details. All he can confirm so far is it's believed some stolen information has been put on the dark web. The utility has cybersecurity insurance, so he's not expecting ratepayers will be on the hook, but gets it that people are anxious.
I certainly understand the concern our customers have, and I'm very sorry that our customers are in this situation. We're going to learn from this, and we'll apply, the lessons learned from this.
Nova Scotia Power is now investigating why social insurance numbers were being stored in its systems. President Peter Gregg says those SIN numbers will be deleted, and the utility will not be collecting them in the future. Gareth Hampshire, CBC News, Halifax.
Provincial politicians have now agreed to call Nova Scotia Power officials before a public meeting next week to answer questions about the cyber attack. Calls for an emergency meeting were made yesterday so executives can provide answers to Nova Scotians. Well, wildfire in rural Cape Breton is now under control. The fire covers about 15 hectares, including mostly wooded areas. Matthew Moore reports.
I'm walking along what we call the Sterling or Three Rivers Road.
Footage taken by a firefighter shows the early moments when a wildfire in rural Cape Breton broke out on Thursday. The impacted area is on the Three Rivers and Sterling Road near Framboise. Firefighters are dealing with hotspots in the heavily wooded area. This vacant structure on the corner of the two roads was burned down. Officials say the fire covers approximately 15 hectares, but damp weather prevented the fire from growing.
It is. It's not beating the crews up with the heat for them. It's allowing them to get into spots that they normally probably wouldn't as quickly as they can. So it's really doing very good for their efforts. And by hopefully mid-afternoon, hopefully we'll have a better outcome.
On several parts of the backwoods roads, fire crews were loading their trucks with water from rivers and creeks. Crews struggled with communications due to poor cell coverage in the area. Fire officials had a sprinkler set up at one home near where the fire was reported and had a hard time dealing with the blaze yesterday.
So there was actually two fires yesterday. We were dispatched up to the first one. That got resolved. And just as I was sitting down to the supper table, the next dispatch came out, and it was the fire over in Sterling that we've been fighting last night and again here today.
Dry conditions this week made the forest particularly dry and had crews scrambling to keep the fire contained.
Oh, it's pretty scary, right? We live in a small, remote community. It's an hour either way to get gas, groceries. The roads are horrible, and it's dry. And the fire was going up like matchsticks.
Now, wet weather is in the forecast for the weekend, and crews hope it will offer some much-needed relief. Matthew Moore, CBC News, Framboise.
Yeah, as Matt said, not necessarily a bad thing to have wet weather on the weekend, right?
Yeah, that's right. I know most folks hoping for some dry, sunny weather because we just haven't had any on the weekends for more than a month, at least not more than a couple hours here or there. That trend will continue this weekend, and yeah, that's a good thing, especially in Cape Breton where they're battling those wildfires. And as you can see, temperature highs today, kind of mid to high teens, some low 20s. That is going to be a similar story this weekend. As we look at the forecast, we will be looking at a quiet start to Saturday, and then that rain will fill in into the afternoon from southwest to northeast. Not a lot, but it will hopefully help the crews there in Cape Breton. As we can see on Sunday, we're going to see some pushes of dry air. Also the potential for some scattered showers in the mix, but it does look like Sunday afternoon is trending a little bit brighter, particularly mid to late afternoon, though it is going to be breezy. We'll walk you through with your full weekend forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Amy?
All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
A pay dispute between the province and 5 doctors in Musquodoboit Harbour has some worried about the impact on care at the hospital. Magda Batista reports.
Twin Oaks Memorial Hospital is in turmoil, as the 5 doctors who work here have threatened to resign from the hospital over provincial contract changes.
We are being asked to do even more, all while being penalized to do it, which was not acceptable. We each found that unacceptable.
Dr. David James Brandon is one of the doctors involved. He says the issue is over a change to how they are paid for inpatient care and says the model doesn't fit the unique needs of small communities because it makes it difficult to recruit staff and complicates patient care. Previously, physicians were paid for each service, but the most recent contract between doctors and the province changed that. Now, doctors are offered higher compensation if they take on more responsibility, such as taking on more patients, providing additional services, or working longer hours.
The biggest mistake I think they're making with rural care is not listening to the people who are doing it, the people who are working in it every day, the doctors, the nurses, the other allied health professionals.
Earlier this month, Brandon and his colleagues said they would resign in protest. But they changed their minds and have agreed to stay on for at least 6 months as talks continue. The local MLA, Kent Smith, says he is cautiously optimistic about a solution, but wants people to know that the inpatient coverage issue will not impact any other services offered at the hospital. In a statement, Doctors Nova Scotia says it is educating physicians about the new pay structure, and it's trying to support changes within the structure while not impacting doctors financially or increasing workload.
CBC requested an interview with Nova Scotia Health but was denied. In a statement, it says steps are being taken to ensure patients continue to receive medical care and the emergency department will operate as normal. For now, Brandon says doctors remain, but they are ready to leave their roles if the conflict persists. Magda Bastida, CBC News, Halifax.
The leader of Nova Scotia's official opposition says the government's refusal to release the recommendations from a panel on environmental racism is the latest example of the Progressive Conservatives ducking transparency.
I think that this government believes that they are above accountability. They believe that their majority government is a blank check and gives them the ability to do whatever they want without being accountable to the Nova Scotians who elected them and to the ones who didn't.
Yesterday, Justice Minister Becky Drouin refused to say why the government is withholding the recommendations or if she's even read them. Nova Scotia's minister responsible for housing says changes have been made to the rent supplement program after a recent audit found some recipients were overpaid or underpaid.
So we welcomed, the opportunities to improve and to bring efficiencies to this program. That human error does occur. So we have made changes to the program where now this is automated to avoid these instances moving forward.
The audit found 104 people in the East Hants and Timberley areas were underpaid during the last 2 years. LeBlanc couldn't say how many people were overpaid. Firefighters in Halifax have a risky job, and part of keeping them safe is reliable communications. Halifax Fire's current technology has created some issues, but some new upgrades are changing that. Jenna Banfield reports.
Radio communication.
This Digital Vehicular Repeater System, or DVRS, is a device built into Halifax fire trucks that is used to enhance radio communications. But this device has its issues. Mark Burgess, the Division Chief of Technology and Innovation, says the repeater can cut out in areas where cellular service is spotty, such as concrete buildings, large arenas, or underground areas. This type of interruption can make the job riskier for firefighters.
This radio is a line of safety for them, so they're able to call emergencies, they're able to reach out to their peers to get assistance. If they cannot communicate, then they cannot do that.
In order to ease this issue, a portable prototype of the DVRS was created by Halifax Fire's communications technician. The department has been testing it in non-emergency situations since last year, but now are seeking to upgrade it. Jacob Woods is a research associate with NSCC's Applied Research. He is one of the team members working on the project. Woods says although they are still in early stages and assessing what can be done, they are hoping to make the device smaller, because an issue with the current prototype is its weight, which can slow firefighter response times down.
The weight's a concern for them, so they're in a rush to get out, and while 30 seconds a minute doesn't sound like much, for a firefighter who's trying to respond to emergency, it adds some pretty significant time.
The prototype is still in the early stage of development. Burgess says the fire department has been receiving an increase in calls over recent years, and that will eventually lead to a larger necessity for these kinds of upgrades. Jenna Banfield, CBC News, Halifax.
And there's beautiful Halifax Harbor in the downtown. Ryan is up next with the full weather forecast. Stay with us. And welcome back. DND Family Day is back once again at CFB Halifax. It is one of the biggest celebrations for Canadian Forces families in the country, with rides, games, draw prizes, live entertainment, and ship tours.
This year marks the event's 26th year and has a spring carnival theme. I was at the festivities earlier today to give a weather lesson to some future meteorologists. Have a look.
Okay, so we're gonna have a low that's gonna move in and we're gonna have some rain and showers over.
Okay, we're here with Base Commander Annick Fortin. Maybe you could just speak to, what your hopes are for this weekend and D&D Family Days.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, first of all. My hope for this weekend is that, we're able to thank all the D&D team and also their family for everything that they do and everything that they are supporting us throughout every mission that we have to accomplish. So I think I'm really hope that we can have as many people as we can have have. Last year we had over 10,000 people, and what I can see through the dockyard right now is that I think we'll achieve that and even more. As you know, days like this and events like this takes a lot of people to organize, and I'm very proud to see as many people as we have throughout the dockyard, and looking forward to tomorrow and ensure that we have as many people.
What does an event like this mean for the families?
To me, I think it means everything. I've been in the forces for 34 years, and when I see events like this and see the great turnout that we have, I think it's a small token or a small gesture that we can do as a defense team to say thank you to our family. And I think that there's huge effort that's been put into this, and it's great to see kids, and it's great to see their family being together and being able to cherish what we have to offer. So it's a small token to say thank you to all the support that they provide us.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourisme Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismegaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
Yeah, Dayton Day Family Day is always such a great event on the waterfront, and the rain held off for much of it, right?
Yeah,
today?
That's right. A bit showery this morning. We're going to have to keep an eye on the radar again for tomorrow with some wet weather coming into the afternoon. But I'm sure they can handle it.
CBC tent is dry.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And there are many tents set up there, so that's great. Have a look at our webcam video. Now, this was taken at this is a live shot of Peggy's Cove, and you can see the fog is looming there right now, and yes, that fog monster is going to be in the mix, unfortunately for, well, the weekend. It looks like in particular for Saturday morning, we are going to be seeing those fog patches setting up along parts of the coast, so we're going to be watching that, and those fog patches should retreat back into the coastline, a little bit further into the coastline as we work our way into the Saturday afternoon time period. So that's some good news there. And let's have a look at those temperatures as we look at the current temps. And you can see where that fog is looming along the coast. Single digits to, low teens and even towards the mid-teens in places like downtown Halifax right now. Temperatures still hanging on to the 20s in through the North Shore right now. As we look at the current winds, and we are looking at sustained winds in the 20-30 range and some gusts upwards of 40 kilometers per hour at last check in through the Halifax area. But the skies did clear pretty nicely today, and that is at least hopeful to be the case as we move into Sunday afternoon as well. There's the pair of lows that we're watching, this one departing, this one working its way up the eastern seaboard, and that indeed will be spreading the wet weather in for Saturday. Area of high pressure to follow things up and, of course, to clear things out and calm things down for next week. I will say, too, that this area of high pressure looks set to kind of anchor to our east next week. That will allow those very summer-like temperatures to surge back in for next week. 30 in Winnipeg right now. Unfortunate situation again in both Manitoba and Saskatchewan as the wildfire situation continues there. So our fingers and toes crossed that things will break there in more favorable conditions with some rain. In terms of our forecast for tonight, we are looking at those showers marching in before morning in through western areas, at least the chance of showers but by the time we get to tomorrow morning. In Cape Breton, pretty quiet tonight. Those winds becoming light, so a little bit more favorable for the wildfire situation going on there in Richmond County. Saturday, through the overnight into Saturday morning, as I said, that chance for showers primarily to the north, but the risk is there for western areas. Saturday morning, I think the best chance of some sun is going to be Cape Breton and across the North Shore. The clouds quickly building in there, and the rain will follow it up here for the western parts of the province late morning into the afternoon hours, and then that rain will spread eastward for Saturday afternoon. We're getting into the rain for Cape Breton for Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening, and that lingering shower activity will continue into Saturday evening. We are looking at temperatures ranging from 15 in onshore winds to 20 from Cheticamp down through Port Hood, back towards Antigonish tomorrow. The North Shore will be right around the 20-degree mark. Cooler, of course, along that Atlantic coastline in those southeast winds. The fog patches, as I said, retreating back to the coastline. The South Shore will be near 13, 14. Should get up into the high teens and near 20 for the valley. And yes, as you can see with the icons there is a risk for a thunderstorm with this line coming through. So keep your eye on the sky. Now let's show you the hour by hour right into Sunday. And you can see some breaks of sun possible in the morning, but I think the clouds remaining pretty stubborn even into the afternoon. And then we should see some breaks of sun here and the shower chances fading away toward the end of the day. Temperatures will range from about 16 to 20 on Sunday, so it's still going to be mild. But the one thing to note here is the wind. Note Sunday morning. In fact, Saturday night into Sunday morning, some gusts in the 40-kilometer-per-hour range. And then into the afternoon, those winds are going to pick up. And we're going to be talking about widespread gusts near 50 and even some 60-kilometer-per-hour gusts along the coast on Sunday. So it is going to be breezy. But we'll take the sunshine, and it is, again, forecast to move through. Now, for Monday, it looks like things will stay quiet. We'll see the potential for a few showers popping up in an unstable air mass on Tuesday, and then Wednesday looking pretty good and very summer-like temperatures into next week, Amy, as I said, as we really get going into June.
It is warming up soon. All right, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Coming up, a Lunenburg hospital has become the first in the province to earn an Energy Star certification. Folks at Fisherman's Memorial here in Lunenburg are celebrating after the hospital became the first in the province to receive an Energy Star certification. And I'm here with Robert Barrs, Manager of Environmental Stewardship with Nova Scotia Health. So we are on the roof with some solar panels behind us. Tell me a bit about how they played a role into getting this notification, the certification.
Well, the solar panels were installed actually back in 1984 during the energy crisis at that period in time, and have been in service ever since, providing a system to preheat domestic hot water for the hospital, which in turn saves our energy using fuel to do that heating. So that's one of the components that we have here that helped us to save energy. But the main component that causes our biggest consumption of energy and utilities in a hospital is the HVAC system, or the heat and ventilation system, which is instilled in our mechanical rooms and spaces throughout the hospital. What we do is we control the actual activation of those pieces of equipment, pumps, fans, motors, and control the speed based on demand within the building through sensors that identify the temperatures, the occupancy, people in the building, scheduling, things like that, so that we can actually reduce the amount of energy by slowing down pumps and motors and fans and still providing the proper air and quality heat and cooling to the patients and staff.
So why is it important to get this Energy Star?
Well, we've been working on energy reductions for quite a few years now, since the Environmental Stewardship Program started. And our goal is to reduce our emissions and our energy usage and still reduce our costs for the taxpayers of Nova Scotia. It's all part of the game. So what we've been doing is really working towards those goals. The certification is a third-party validation of what we're doing is right and is working. So the certification is important, in fact, that yeah, you're going in the right direction, you're doing the right things, and we're proud of what we've done.
Well, in fact, you guys got a score of 92 in 2024. Tell me about
That's correct.
How that ranks with other hospitals.
The 92 score, it's rated 1 out of 100. 92% means we're 92% of the hospitals, we're better than 92% of the hospitals in Canada. This is the first certification for a hospital in Nova Scotia, and we're 1 of 7 in Canada for a hospital of this size and the services that we provide in this facility.
How does the staff feel about that?
The staff are quite excited about it. We have a lot of input from all of our staff. Various green teams throughout the province are starting to grow again, as well as our maintenance operations folks are critical to the work that we're doing to make sure that we reduce our energy, and they're on board.
So for 2024, what was the cost savings for this hospital?
For Fisherman's Memorial itself, it was $140,000, which will go on in perpetuity for annually for the reduction in cost in the hospital. And for the province, it was actually, over the 8 years, we've reduced it by $6 million, as well as 34,500 tons of carbon has been reduced.
Now, what about the impact on patients here at the hospital? Do they notice a difference?
No, they shouldn't. It actually should improve comfort. We're fine-tuning the systems within the hospital that provide the air and the heat and the cooling, and they should be more comfortable, as well as staff and public should be more comfortable.
Now, going forward, do you have any plans to make more changes?
Yes, we do. This is just the start of a program. We're just beginning on our long-term journey to meet our goals to be net zero by 2050.
Do you think you're going to be an example for other hospitals in Nova Scotia?
We certainly hope so, that this is the first one certified in Nova Scotia, but the potential is there for others as well. And now that we know it's doable, we'll be moving forward with having a look at those other facilities.
Now, I understand you had a bit of cake to celebrate the occasion. Tell me about that.
We did. Last week we had a bit of cake, and we did a presentation for the certification with a plaque and a certificate from Natural Resources Canada.
All right, well, congratulations, and keep on doing the good work.
Thank you. Appreciate you covering the story.
Coming up, crews in Western Canada are bracing for more hot, dry conditions as they continue to battle out-of-control wildfires. And a ceasefire stalled. Israel and Hamas remain in disagreement over the latest U.S.-drafted peace deal. Welcome back. It is a touch and go situation in Flin Flon, Manitoba. After holding back a wildfire for more than 2 days, winds are expected to shift, pushing the fire closer to the city. Cameron McIntosh has more on the situation there and in other communities in Manitoba.
At least 20 wildfires are burning across Manitoba. Right now, the future of the city of Flin Flon rests on wind direction. For 2 days now, a fire line about 2 kilometers outside the city is held, but winds are expected to change, blowing northwest, pushing the fire back towards the city about 600 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg. On Wednesday, an evacuation order saw most of the city's 5,000 residents leave. As of now, only firefighters and emergency personnel remain. Premier Wab Kinew spoke this afternoon.
The situation there is very, very serious, and we are doing everything that we can to preserve life, but also to preserve people's livelihoods and homes in the region.
Flin Flon's mayor being very clear the city is in peril.
We've seen devastation across the country in different communities where this has happened, and there's a very, very high potential that it's going to happen here.
It's going to be hit or miss, Mother Nature, what can you do? So it's rebuilding, that goes through your mind.
About 100 kilometers north of Flin Flon, another fire threatens Matthias Coulomb Cree Nation. Helicopters, boats, and now Canadian Armed Forces planes are being used to evacuate hundreds from the community. Further east, the Air Force is also using Hercules aircraft to move a few thousand residents of Pimichikamak Cree Nation, who fled to a neighboring community after fire cut off access to their airport and highway south, which is briefly being reopened today. All told, about 17,000 people are trying to leave their homes in Manitoba. Meanwhile, as wildfires grow across Western Canada, Canadian firefighting resources are being stretched. International help is being called in. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Saskatchewan has joined Manitoba in declaring a state of emergency. Wildfires rage across the northern part of that province, forcing people to head south for safety. There are 7 fires out of control in Saskatchewan. A blaze near Pelican Narrows has already forced out 4,000 residents. 2 fires have merged north of Prince Albert, forming the so-called Shoe Fire, which covers an area 10 times the size of Saskatoon. In the last month, there's been double the number of fires in Saskatchewan than in the entire average season. Hot weather is fueling the flames, and no rain is forecast in coming days. Well, in this region, emergency crews continue to battle a wildfire burning near Churchill Falls in Labrador. It is now being held, and officials say the weather is improving and should help efforts to fight it. The forestry minister says 2 fires merged into one on Thursday. It's now about 170 hectares in size. However, officials say the winds are blowing the fire away from the community, leaving a smoldering ground fire, which allows crews to get water on hot spots further into the woods. Some wet weather is expected to start on Saturday and continue for several days, which could help firefighting efforts. A 14-year-old boy has been charged with first-degree murder after an elderly woman was fatally stabbed in Pickering, Ontario. Police say the attack appeared to be random.
As of right now, I can still tell you this appears to be a random attack, and we do have no connection between the victim as well as the male that's in custody.
The incident happened Thursday afternoon. Police say the woman was outside her home and was approached by a male she did not know and stabbed. She died while en route to hospital. Police are not releasing her identity or age at the request of her family. Police say the boy was arrested without incident later that day. The accused appeared via Zoom in an Oshawa courtroom Friday. His identity is being protected under the Youth Criminal Justice Act. Earlier this week, the U.S. expressed optimism about negotiating a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. But so far, the two sides have yet to reach an agreement. The CBC's Tom Perry reports from Jerusalem.
What's been reported is that this deal would see Hamas release 10 living Israeli hostages and the remains of 18 deceased hostages. So that's 28 out of a total of 58 hostages, living and dead, that Hamas still has in Gaza. Now, in return, the Israelis would release a number of Palestinian prisoners. There'd be a 60-day ceasefire, and Israel would allow more aid to get into the territory. Earlier this week, it was the Israelis who were balking at this deal, but we heard yesterday that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had told the families of hostages that his government now backs the plan. The issue now is Hamas. The group has questions around the guarantees being offered on food deliveries. Also, though, on talks toward a permanent peace. Hamas wants this to be over, but it wants to remain in Gaza. The Israelis want to maintain the right to keep going after Hamas if they're there, and ultimately what they want is for Hamas to lay down its weapons, surrender, and just not be in Gaza anymore. So we're going to have to see whether there's any kind of temporary compromise that can be reached to reach this temporary ceasefire and allow more aid to get in. And on that, really, aid is still just at a trickle entering Gaza. It's not nearly what people need. And we've been seeing these scenes of chaos, people swarming aid depots. We saw a scene in central Gaza of people overrunning a food warehouse, a food distribution site. As many as 4 people, according to reports out of Gaza, were killed in this melee. And we've seen as well scenes of people storming, going after a truck carrying flour, carrying off whatever they can. So really just scenes of desperation in Gaza. And so the hope was that a ceasefire would ease some of that desperation. But right now, there is no ceasefire. The two sides don't agree just yet. And so the suffering for the people of Gaza and for the families of Israeli hostages continues. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
We have a special CBC News report for you now. Our team recently visited Saudi Arabia without supervision or preconditions. It's the first time that's happened in years. They dug into the cultural change being spearheaded by women in the face of an ultra-traditional society. Chris Brown reports from Riyadh.
The speed of change in Saudi Arabia these days is astonishing. New communities are emerging from the desert as part of a determined economic transformation, eclipsed only by an even more striking social revolution, with women driving the change.
Like Formula 1.
Rawan Al-Shafei, who's 30, is living in a Saudi Arabia where covering up is no longer compulsory and where women are making big inroads in the job market. Are you good?
Yeah, I have a best record here, actually.
She's the marketing manager for the company that runs this go-kart track and other fun attractions in a Riyadh shopping mall.
Like working in the different place, manager, CEO, project manager.
And for you in particular, you have a good job?
Yeah, I have a great job, actually, and learning a lot from here.
Over decades, Saudi Arabia's highly repressive rules for women have shaped a big part of the country's international image and driven criticism.
We see the world tomorrow.
But in 2016, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, launched the so-called 2030 plan to broaden the economy away from fossil fuels and to build a stronger, more productive society. And things started to change. Women were given the right to drive. The powers of the so-called morality police were curbed. And women seized the opportunities. Now, 34% of the country's workforce is female.
A huge trust in the woman. She have a big chance to be like showing what she can do it in this country.
Our CBC News team recently visited and reported from Riyadh without supervision or preconditions, the first time that's happened in years. At Arab News, we met freelancer Gadi Juda, who's 29. She lived in London, Ontario for a few years and returned to a changed country.
When I got back, I was in complete shock. Restaurants were normally separated, so singles area, families area. I got back and everyone's just sitting in the same space. I feel so secure and so safe here in a way that I haven't felt anywhere else, to put it lightly. So I do see that there's an amazing future happening and it's unfolding right in front of us. And I'm excited to see how this goes.
Human rights groups outside of Saudi Arabia say there's still a lot of work to do, though, and that male guardianship laws allowing men to control women's lives still exist. The World Bank also points out that Saudi needs stronger laws on domestic violence and divorce and access to financial services for women.
Yeah, I would say that in general, laws probably favor men more.
Longtime women's advocate Maha Akil says the changes for women have been amazing, but there's also a gap between policy and practice.
So sometimes it's not necessarily that the laws are not there. It's just a matter of following up, implementing, and for the women themselves knowing their rights and going to the authorities and seeking help.
For women, the changes ushered in by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman are aimed at harnessing their economic potential. And though not complete, supporters believe their achievements will ripple throughout Saudi society.
That report from the CBC's Chris Brown. Well, Diabetes Canada is warning consumers about some products advertised on social media that might be fake. It comes after the organization received a surge in calls for people who fell for scam posts. Alison Northcott reports.
When you open the box, you have this gadget.
Joel Snitman thought he was ordering a device to monitor his blood sugar to help manage his type 2 diabetes after seeing an ad on Facebook appearing to be endorsed by Diabetes Canada. But the product he got wasn't what was advertised.
I got sucked in, then obviously there'd be other people to get sucked in, and I wanted Diabetes Canada to know that some crooked outfit was using their logo.
Diabetes Canada says it's heard from more than 300 people complaining of similar ads.
Slimming and health boost drops.
It says it never endorses any medical products.
If you live with diabetes and you are seeing a health product, you think, oh, that looks interesting, and it's endorsed by Diabetes Canada, you need to know that's false.
The organization has tried to get the ads pulled down. In a statement, Facebook's owner, Meta, said it has removed some of the ads in question flagged to them by CBC News and is still investigating. But when one ad disappears, Diabetes Canada says another pops up, and the confusion that creates makes an already complicated disease even harder to manage.
If they wind up going on a whole trajectory of taking something or using something that isn't helpful, who knows, perhaps harmful, then they risk having a worsening of their condition.
Some ads have also used logos for Obesity Canada and even Health Canada, but the companies pushing the products can be hard to track down.
We are working with our legal team to hopefully reach out to them and cease and desist.
Health Canada told us the product Joel Snitman thought he was buying is not on the list of authorized medical devices in Canada. Diabetes Canada says anyone considering a monitoring device or a treatment found online should talk to their doctor first. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Canada's economy grew at an annualized pace of 2.2% in the first quarter this year. That is a tenth of a point higher than the previous quarter. StatsCan says it's primarily driven by exports. It says companies in the U.S. rushed to stockpile Canadian goods before President Donald Trump's tariffs were implemented. Figures for March show growth of 0.1% in real GDP, and StatsCan's advance estimates expect the economy kept growing at the same pace in April. This is the final economic indicator before the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision on Wednesday. It will help determine whether the central bank will cut or stay put on rates. U.S. President Donald Trump thanked Elon Musk today. The world's richest man is finishing his term as a federal worker, leading DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency.
I think the DOGE team is doing an incredible job. They're going to continue doing an incredible job, and I'll continue to be visiting here and be a friend and advisor to the president.
Musk went into the job promising to cut over $1 trillion in federal spending. So far, the number is much lower. The speed and scope of the cuts raised widespread anger in the U.S. Musk has plenty to do outside government, running Tesla, the rocket company SpaceX, and the social media platform X. The collapse of a glacier in Switzerland this week has renewed focus on global warming and the increasing dangers from it. The village of Blatton was buried under a deluge of millions of cubic meters of ice, mud, and rock that crashed down a mountain. The 300 residents had already been evacuated after part of the mountain behind the glacier began to crumble. Scientists say the loss of inland glaciers impacts those who rely on them for drinking water and for agriculture. They also say there is no way to stop the melting. Canada's main stock index closed lower today, along as commodities trended down also. Here's a look at the numbers as we head to break.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourisme Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismegaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
Okay, so the weekend sounds a bit damp, but still the weekend. You can't diminish that, right?
That is true. And we should see some sun breaks, particularly Sunday afternoon is looking likely our best chance for that. But maybe even into the morning, might see some breaks. And Sunday's the drier of the 2 days, without question. We'll get to all that in just a moment. Saturday is going to be a better day for the Ducks.
There you go. They'll be happy.
Great day for a duck indeed. And thanks to Pauline Smith for shooting this one and sharing it. Thanks for the kind note as well, Pauline, in the Halifax area. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. I believe actually this was taken around Spring Garden Road. And yes, a beautiful shot indeed. So yes, Saturday, a pretty good day for a duck. And not a bad day if you can get out and time it out with the rain before the rain arrives in the morning or perhaps in the evening as it starts to clear away in the west. We'll see some sun breaks possible, Cape Breton and the North Shore, and those winds from the southeast, 20 gusting to 40. Now, Sunday, we are looking at that more favorable setup for some sunny breaks throughout the day. A chance for showers, and we are going to be taking a look at those temperatures generally in the 16 to 20 range again. A bit cooler, Tri-County area, and then note that the winds on Sunday we're going to be gusting 40, 50, even 60 kilometers per hour along parts of the coast, so it will be breezy. Quick look at that timeline. There's the Saturday morning time frame. And then that rain tracks in from west to east throughout the day. Saturday evening into the Sunday time period, that's when we're looking at those more scattered showers and those breaks of sun, particularly through the later stages of Sunday. Monday looking pretty favorable, and note those temperatures looking quite summer-like as we move into next week.
Sure do. All right, well, if you haven't heard by now, the Edmonton Oilers are heading back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Oh yeah, the Oilers are getting their fans all hyped up. The team posted this right after they clinched the win over Dallas last night in 5 games.
They set up a rematch against the Florida Panthers. It will be yet another chance at Canada's first cup since 1993. Game 1 goes next Wednesday night in Edmonton.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, that's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.